in my domain. Got the whole crowd screaming out our name. It's a blowout, it's a hurricane. It's over before you know it. We're gonna stand on top with our hands in the sky. Gonna raise our cup to the stadium lights for the glory, for the glory. We celebrate with the city tonight. Hear the hometown cheer, it's the ultimate high. For the glory, we do it for the glory.
I mean, what a way to kick things off here for FPUIT, securing their first victory here in the LBL. Not to mention for AMAQC Clash Masters, what a turn of events we have right now, because I guess when we talked about retaining the same roster, we had expectations, and sadly, looks like they had some struggles going into the first week.
Yeah, and you know, Vulcan, when we casters were doing our prep and we were predicting who might come out on top, we had very, very high expectations of AMA, like you mentioned. But unfortunately, for week 1, they're gonna go down 0-2. Hopefully, for the upcoming weeks, they can bounce back. But looking at FIT now, we mentioned their team dynamic. It's been way healthier this time. The players are on a good mindset, and I think pinakita naman nila nung kanilang game laban sa AMA, even though they were kind of shaky during the earlier phases. Once mid-game came, they just absolutely crushed every team fight, and when they got the Baron, it was no looking back for them, and that's why they were able to secure the win. But now they get to face off against MCL.
Malayan College's Laguna entering the LVL right now for our first opening week. As we saw for MCL, one of the teams that we did observe going into the first term of the LVL, we gotta hand it to MCL. They tried their best, but right now I think we had some word that I think for MCL we may experience some roster changes, but only to one role, which would be the support for the Warlocks entering the second term of the LVL. Not to mention, I did see MCL Warlocks, they did handle their own tournament in their school, and I think it's a great boost in them trying to find talents, trying to get out, scout some teams, possible entries for the LVL.
Yeah, and alam mo, laki ng player base as far as people who are actually into esports dun sa MCL. I think napakarami nilang players, and the people who support their LVL team as well. They have this great fans, and they even have a hype video that their school made. So, knowing the new support ng MCL, tignan natin though, does it translate into their performance onto the Rift? Because now they're facing an FIT that has a lot of momentum after taking down last term's third placers, AMA.
It's a huge boost and confidence for FPUIT Tamaraos, as when we talked about their first run in the LVL, the opening week was not really spectacular. It was something they slumped. They went downhill there and sort of rose up from the ranks, climbed back into the first succeeding weeks of the group stages. But now for FPUIT, starting things off on a high note. Let's see, can they maintain this momentum going into our next match, which would be against Warlocks, Malayan Colleges.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and talk about MCL Warlocks. You mentioned momentum on the side of FIT. I think since MCL have 3 games today, they're gonna want to build momentum, and I think what's a better place to start rather than their first match? If they're able to pick up a win here, they can carry that over into their next match and then the one after that.
And when you talk about, let's say, for Malayan Colleges Laguna, we should also point out for the opposite side, FPUIT still wanting to take away a game here, so that when it comes to the momentum on their side, they can end the first week of the LVL on a good note. But we'll see once we load up to the drafting phase. Once again, this is the 2018 LVL spring term.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and talk about what MCL might want to do if they want to match up against FIT. And I think one of the key picks for FIT during their first game was the Sejuani and the Brom. Those 2 champions really set up FIT for success with the pick potential, the amount of crowd control that can be changed. So I think MCL were able to catch a glimpse of that match. They might want to either ban or pick one of those champions for their own.
It's actually really, I would say, planning wise for FPUIT. They did stick to the strategy with the Sejuani and the Brom. It's quite difficult for AMA to get away from them thanks to the double CC lockdown that it provides due to passives. I mean, they pair up so well together. But I do hope for FUIT, their run in opening week is going to end on a good note. But let's say a loss or a win, still, this is going to be the first week of the group stages, but it's not yet over for our concluded match with AMA QC Clash Masters. Let's see how they can bounce back in the second week of the LVL.
Yeah, I mean, we have 6 more weeks of group stages to see what these teams could really do. And honestly, Vulcan, I'm very happy that majority of the games that they have went against our expectations.
It makes things more exciting, not just for us, but also to the viewers watching right now, especially the ones returning to watch the LVL. So thank you so much for tuning in here. As when you talked about the first term, I think you guys can relate when we talked about FUIT when they had a not so good start in the opening week, but now things are different. Expectations are thrown out the window while we see FUIT starting things off great, but I want to see, can they improve more? Because when you do well in the first team, we sometimes see teams who do well in the first team and go downhill. I hope that it won't be the case here for Itamaraos.
Yeah, and Vulcan, habang nandun tayo sa topic about teams starting off in the LVL, we might want to remind the viewers out there, later today, Bulacan State University Gosu X makes their LVL debut. They're one of the 3 new teams that will be introduced for this term, so that's one thing that the viewers out there have to watch out for.
MCL will be having a long day today as they will be playing 3 games.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
And the last game would be the Bulacan Bulsu Gosu X, Bulacan State University, and one of the LCL champions, LCL, Lowell Collegiate League, not the LVL, one of the previous collegiate leagues that we had here in Garina. But once again, everything is different when you take account to the outside elements that can change how a team's dynamic can work. That's why when we were talking with Zed from FUIT, he was speaking outwardly that we love the team right now, we love the dynamic, and that's what it showed in our previous match.
Yeah, and I think we get to see more of that. Like we mentioned, I think the players right now, they're just getting ready before we head into the pick and ban phase. But yeah, going back, you mentioned FIT's team dynamic, that roster swap. Now, I think their support player D was moved out of the roster. That's why they're having a bit more of a easier time here. As we go back on your screens here, the schedule.
The schedule right now, again, as Chisto mentioned before, Bulsu versus MCL for the last match. Something that the fans from Bulacan State University can look forward to, as we will have the last match of MCL on, let's say, a fitting setting for Bulsu, entering the LVL and closing the first week.
Yeah, and we also have to talk about our matches before those final matches. UPD and I Academy will also take to the Rift and are going to see some action for this first week. So a lot more teams that are going to be playing today, Vulcan. Hindi pa nga natin nakalahati yung araw, and so far the games have been very, very good.
It's actually one of the things that I love about the new LVL. 10 new teams, a more competitive format, single elimination onto the playoffs, but right now a single round robin for our group stages. And I think for the support that we are having on our Facebook stream, shout out to the people there, and especially the people very active. I was personally there watching the comment section, and they were really rooting for AMA, their respective schools. But not just that, FUIT, as Arctic, I did hear Arctic mention about some sort of hate, but hate is love and attention, and I think they tried their best to show those results, and they performed.
Okay, binanggit mo yung fans that were rooting for AMA. Hopefully, even though AMA went 0-2 today, to the moving weeks, they're still gonna be very supportive and really just support their school representatives.
It's nice to see that when you talked about the first time, we do see the history carried over to the second term, like the UP and UST. We did mention the top two teams in the previous term did perform well in the opening week, but AMAQC, I think they're having a rocky start, but it's not yet over for them. I still have, for the succeeding week, we may have something of a surprise waiting for us for Clash Masters. But now for FUIT, spotlight on them as they will now challenge MCL Warlocks in their opening match.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what MCL Warlocks specifically can bring, because like we mentioned, ang dami nating tanong headed into the first week because we didn't know what these teams could bring, especially with new rosters, new players coming in. We don't know how to gauge how they're gonna perform compared to their first term. So yeah, once we head into the match, I guess a lot of our questions will be answered even more.
And so far, FUIT with the momentum from our third match. Now moving on to the MCL Warlocks. You can hand it to MCL. They have consistent players, especially one player that I do notice consistent all throughout was in the top lane. They did have struggles with their bot lane dynamic, and I did hear from our head of the LVL that the support will be switched out with the roster. Let's see what he can do, what he can contribute to the dynamic in the bot lane, going for the support role.
Yeah, and binanggit mo yung players to watch out first. You mentioned top lane of MCL loses. I think last bit, even though MCL was not that high up in the standings, I think loses still performed quite well compared to the other top laners in the LVL. So maybe this time, once we see them load onto the Rift, we'll get to see if he's still that consistent of a player.
You would question yourself. You would maybe ask the people out there or to us that why is it important to know that the consistent players? It's more on we can gauge the team itself. I mean, when you talk about history, when you talk about the teams and the terms previous from the first season, you gotta hand it to the consistent players, not just from the MCL side, but we also know from TUP's history. As Sadia has been consistent, that's why he has been highlighted. But now we can now mention Baam from the previous history of the LVL first term. We know this history, we know their matchups, their style. This is why we love about the teams who are consistent players, because it gives the teams a character, a personality that we can look forward to and cheer them on as the group stages progress.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Vulcan. If your team has a consistent player, it gives you that one lane, one role to play around and try to build strategies around. If your top laner is really good, you play around your top laner, then he can carry. If your mid laner is really good, same thing. That's the thing you could do with consistency on your roster. So that's going to be key for all these LVL teams moving forward.
I guess that's why, in a way, you and I were a bit disappointed to see AMA QC Clash Masters retaining the same roster. We were expecting some step up, but I still think this is a great way for them to start because of the fact that they have so much more to work with. Whoever excels, whoever grows throughout the group stages will improve. I mean, we're no strangers to that, Chista. We did see this in the, I want to mention, or short shout out to the Pro Gaming Series, which has been recently concluded, especially BRE.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. It's kind of takes me way back. This is what I love about the story. I mean, teams who underperform in the first week and suddenly catches us by surprise. This is where the underdog story turns out gives birth to. So I have high expectations for Clash Masters.
Yeah, it's not about how you start, Vulcan. It's ultimately how you finish. And in the LVL, we mentioned earlier that there's a new format. And for playoffs as well, we're not only selecting 3 teams now. We get to pick 6. So there's more opportunities for more teams to head into the playoffs and possibly challenge UST for that championship.
And not just that, not the teams that did successfully secure the top 2 spots, they can't relax just yet. So they'll be waiting in the semifinals to see who will be their challenger before moving on to the finals of the LVL second term.
Yeah, I wonder though, how soon before we head onto the Rift? I do believe, sorry out there guys, just a bit of preparation for all the players, trying to get everything set up right. You want them to be comfortable once they load onto the Rift, but
we do apologize on our part from Vulcan and Chisto and I. We would like to emphasize that we do apologize for the technical difficulties, but it's without a doubt some things can't be helped. But in a way, we do can control how the players can behave. We want these players to have a comfortable environment and try to perform to their best conditions, because you don't want to end a game. You don't want to be disappointed in yourself saying that I could have done this better.
Yeah, I think yung sinasabi namin is we want the players to be 100% once nag-start na yung game. We don't want any sort of technical gear issues, some stuff like that. Medyo yung iba siguro giniginaw. Yung mga bagay na ganun ba, parang dapat talaga komportable sila para perfect yung game.
When it comes to a perfect game, what are your elements of a perfect game? Perfect gear, perfect setup.
No,
lag.
No, in my opinion, perfect game would be you not losing any, you not dying, not losing any objectives, stuff like that. But I do believe we just signaled that pick and ban will be starting very soon. So wala na mag-aantay, guys. Let's go straight into the drafting phase. FU Itamars on the blue side against MCL Warlocks, making the first game in this LVL term on the red side.
Yes, that's right. For the Itamars playing on the blue side, and for the Warlocks on the red side. Bans being banned out. We can see for the Kha'Zix and the Caitlyn being removed here. I think Caitlyn has been touched just a bit in this patch, Chisto.
Yeah, I wonder though, will MCL decide to ban the Kai'Sa? Because Caitlyn is one of the champions that actually can answer Kai'Sa in lane. Oh my god, why did... Okay, they banned the Janna, which leaves the Kai'Sa available for FIT, and this is the best situation for the Itamaras. They get the best AD carry on this patch. And let's see what they can build around this pick. As for MCL, going for a more classic bot lane here, the lovers duo, Zai and Rakan, taken away by Warlocks.
I guess they were willing to trade the Kai'Sa for these 2 picks on the red side. So let's see. We did see Kai'Sa performing really well in their previous matches, and something worth noting that if you let Kai'Sa snowball, early pickup of a BF sword is more than enough to try and shut down the bot lane. We saw that with Clash Masters in the previous match, but right now for FIT, they will trade off that again with the Morgana and the Zac.
Yeah, the thing with picking Kai'Sa, I mean leaving Kai'Sa open, your team needs to have an answer for this pick because she's just that strong, and looks like both bot lane and junglers will be selected here, so I expect the second phase of banning to be targeted towards the solo lanes here. So expect some mid lane and top lane bans, and we see right here Zoe, Vlad taken away from FIT. As for MCL, no Talia, no Ornn. They are gonna jump on this Galio, and I've been talking with everyone at the office today about how Galio should be 100% pick and ban, because with the mana changes, I think Galio can just be one of the greatest champions to pick mid lane, because he's always going to be a factor, especially with his roaming potential. The response though from FIT will be the Azir in the mid lane. Now they're hovering over Irelia.
Irelia, one of the top lane champions who have been performing really well, I would say ridiculously well in top lane, due to the fact that you can abuse the mobility so much to make it unfair. But one of the champions that can try and go neck and neck is the Jax in the top lane, because we're seeing the jungle Gragas. So I think that's a good matchup. I have to admit something, because once the Irelia was released, I knew I just had to spam Jax at top, because I knew the people would keep playing Irelia. So I do run Conquer on Jax to just, match it, because I knew for a fact I may see an Irelia most of the time, but still, in a way, it's a skill matchup.
Opposite to you, Vulcan, you spam Jax. I actually spam the new Irelia. I love this champion. Her mobility is absolutely disgusting. The outplay potential on the new Irelia is just mind-blowing. The amount of highlight plays, you just get to show off your mechanics. Even though I'm bad, personally, I'm bad on Irelia, but still, I get to dash around and be fast, so that's great. But looking into this game, I wonder how can FIT play around this pick. To summarize the draft, I do believe both teams have a lot of team fight potential in both lineups, really, so expect some heavy 5-on-5 fights once the game does begin.
And the Irelia has to be quite careful against the Jack, because many of the kids of the Irelia can be denied. So in a way, Chista would love to embrace the new champions. When I ever see a new champion and I know which lane it's gonna go, I try to think of a counter to the champion and just play against it instead of trying out a new champion. But we'll leave it to the players to see how it'll be executed so far. This is going to be our match of MCL Warlocks versus FEU IT Itamaras.
Alam mo, excited talaga ako kasi buong araw sinasabi ko magkakagalya tayo. Sinabi ko rin excited ako makita ng Irelia, especially she's new to competitive play. We haven't seen that much action with Irelia. I think she was picked in MSI earlier yesterday, pero we haven't seen her here in the Philippines, so maybe we get to see some Irelia outplays. But yeah, I guess for this one you'll be biased towards the Jax.
Of course, I have a lot of games.
Okay, so when we see a 1v1, you're cheering for the Jax. I'm going to be cheering for the Irelia and see how it pans out.
But still, we have to point out what is the key elements to change, because you do have to account for the outside elements from the lane itself, especially the Zac being picked and the Gragas. And note that for the Zac, it's a team effort to try and ward out the river, something I don't do, and I just blame the junglers.
If you guys ever get the chance to play with Vulcan, he does not ward at all. It's very frustrating to play with this man right here, but it's still very, very fun. But yeah, let's go back. Focus more on the game here. Like you mentioned, team effort and team fight comms. We expect to see,
and that's coming from me,
5v5 fights as we load straight onto the Rift for the fourth game of today. It is FIT Itamaras on the blue side facing off against MCL Warlocks on the red side. Let's go.
I just love how when it comes to the interview that Arctic had, a sit down with Zed, saying that he personally feels like the dynamic of the team has been improved. They feel more comfortable. They feel confident. It will radiate throughout the games and show their performance. But now the question and the spotlight will now be on to MCL Warlocks. We did talk about Lucis being consistent player throughout the first term. Now we'll see how he'll pan out with the matchup against the Irelia and the Jax.
Yeah, and for MCL here, I think the key would be if they can bring the Galio towards a side lane, have him impact the map in a positive way, because Hero's Entrance will always be a great tool to help out either bot lane or top lane if you want to go for those aggressive dives. And I do think that the Azir won't be able to respond in the quickest of manners.
So again, Chisto did talk about the mana changes and how it will affect the mid priority. Already we're seeing that the Galio having the priority immediately trying to scout out there. We did see Galio going into the Raptor camps and putting down a ward. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, they're going on to the Rakan, punishing for that aggression. Prestige attack is in play here as extra damage was dealt to the Rakan. So I guess a trade-off in favor of FIT.
Yeah, and we see a lot of action on the map. But before any of these kills happen, Vulcan, I want to take this time and let's go ahead and talk about why I think Galio is probably one of the best champions for this patch. Because of the changes to mana items, especially the Lost Chapter, it's now pricier. Galio is one of those champions that don't necessarily have to build this item in order to be relevant in the game, meaning that he'll get to his core items faster than most mid lane mages. And really, I think that's an indirect buff in a sense to Galio. That's really why I like this pick so much.
And not to mention, it kind of makes the new Doran's Ring favor. But I wouldn't say it's a huge bad thing for the mages who are mana hungry. I mean, the mana regeneration is still good enough itself. I mean, it just entitles you more to push, at least.
Yeah, but playing an Azir into a Galio, it's going to be very difficult for you to push. Galio has a ton of wave clear, but he is getting poked down here. He needs to be careful because he might be forced back to base. If he does go back, he does have teleport to head back into the lane.
And I think for the Galio has to be careful and still respect the range of this Azir as Lucius is being ganked in the top lane. Gets back here. He tried to leap away with a ward. Low on health. He is forced to flash away. Does not want to give a first blood just yet.
Yeah, and gusto ko yung early gank dun ng Zac really trying to get this Irelia ahead, because if an Irelia is able to snowball, she can really take over games. It could be very, very difficult to deal with this champion given her disgusting mobility, but MCL do have a lot of crowd control on their lineup, so that could be one of the answers that they have to the mobility that Irelia has.
And maybe we can expect more interactions in the top lane, especially for Dre, because I think for this Aurelia, Arfring will have a difficult time with this Jax. Not to mention, at the early lane, we did see a CS deficit already. Seeing how he was able to zone out the Aurelia with his counter-strike. He will put some wards there. He did buy control ward, which I don't normally do. And now we're seeing in the mid lane, again, as you said, Chisto, all about priority, pushing out the lanes.
Yeah, and let's go back and talk about top lane. Mukhang natatalo na yung pick mo dito. It looks like the Jax did burn his flash, so he has to be a bit more careful here. And, you know, having flash down really just invites the Zac more to visit your lane. And once the Zac is able to hit level 5, I think that's the optimal time to go for those ganks, because you'd have enough points in your Elastic Slingshot to be long enough with the caster so that you can really threaten lanes from outside of vision.
But it's still nice that he does have to leap strike the cube, but I think the binding will set things up here as the Kai'Sa will try and trade things out with the Xayah, and especially the Rakan is there for the shield. But for now, FIT pushing at the bot lane may signal the Gragas to intervene. We're seeing Xayah approaching the river, the lane slowly, but I think for FIT, their senses are tingling as they will ward out the brush. And I think he will be spotted by a ward, but it won't stop him. It's a Rakan. Oh, the binding has been used. So, while unfortunate, they will not commit to a full-on gank.
Yeah, and I like that they didn't try to overcommit, because the Zac could have easily responded to that fight. And even if they did, available pa rin yung Black Shield to Morgana to deny the crowd control, deny the engage coming from MCL. So wise enough, they back off. But they really have to find a window where they can affect this bot lane, because it's already showing. Whoa, hold on.
Flash in with a taunt, causing the Gragas for the body slam. Will not connect. Zeet still lives with the cost of his flash. Really close call for the mid laner of FIT. No first blood has been shed.
Yeah, that could have easily been first blood had the chain CC been a bit closer, because that was a flash taunt from the Galio. If the Gragas was able to instantly get there with the body slam flash, I think that definitely would have been first blood. But still, just flashes burnt in the mid lane. Now Lucis he's pushing forward. We're gonna see a Zac gank here.
Here comes Alexis Seisha. He does pop his counter strike. Immediately, Darelia will not commit to the fight. He's level 6. He may pop his ultimate there for the defensive stat. Goes in for the Gragas health. He did leap strike away from the gank. So I think in a way they did draw attention to themselves as MCL Warlocks in the top lane loses, and the Gragas Suzuya was able to try and stop the Zac, but I think we saw in the bot lane how FIT, they were able to secure the first blood going to the Kai'Sa.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I wonder kung paano nangyari yun dun sa bot lane, but we already saw MCL's bot lane being pushed in here. Look at the CS difference between the Kai'Sa and the Xayah. That's just the strength of this champion. This is why you do not want to leave her up when your team is not first pick. It's already showing the benefits for FIT, and I think we get to see how first blood happened here. Let's actually see. I think it was a binding. Yes, it was a binding, and once you're able to pop all of the stacks of that Kai'Sa, it just deals a lot of damage, especially with the amplification from press the attack as well. It just means first blood was easy pickings from the side of FIT.
And it's worth noting that it was a first blood and also the CS lead on the Kai'Sa's favor. And now we're seeing the Rage Blade components being picked up by the Kai'Sa, and I think this will boost up her. At least it's a Rage Blade is a risky item to go for, but if you're that confident, just go for it. It complements the skating towards her rest of her kits. Maybe she can get for an early upgrade.
Yeah, and you know the thing here, Vulcan, there's a lot of ways you could go to build the Kai'Sa, because earlier we saw Navi from TUP actually go for a crit build with Fleet Footwork and go Essence Reaver Phantom Dancer first 2 items, but with press the attack on Kai'Sa, you'd want to go Ginsu's Rage Blade into Zeal item, try to get your passive to proc even more. So the fact that you could go so many ways with this champion, the versatility is just great.
And not just that, adaptability too, so when in itemization. So whatever you feel like it, just go for. You can go for attack speed, AP, or AD, so to help you boost your kits.
Hold on.
I think for the Zac, he may... Yes, he will be forced out to use his ultimate to just get away from the duo.
Wow, look at the top lane though. I'm actually taking note of the CS difference up there. Even though there's a lot of jungle attention being put onto Luce's side, he's actually dominating the Irelia in this matchup. So, looks like you actually know this matchup really well, Vulcan. You've played a lot of Jax versus Irelia.
Opening start of the Irelia rework, I knew immediately that I need to use Jax all the time. Because I'm kind of sick and tired of seeing Irelias all the time. So why not just straight out counter pick it? And not to mention, Irelia, I have to agree with you. Disgusting mobility, so hard to kill, and it really can do both. I mean, they really can fit so many roles in this clash. I mean, it's a great team fight and can quickly close in the enemy and trap them with the ultimate.
Yeah, I mean, the backline dive threat coming from FIT is massive. The Irelia could easily dash towards the Xayah, the Zac, always a threat to your backline. And looking at the Kai'Sa as well, you could put the black shield on her and she dashes there. You can't stop her. She's gonna dish out all your damage, assassinate your primary damage carry. And FIT could just win team fights off of that if they're able to create the proper setup. If they're able to work through all of the knockbacks, all of the knockups, the taunts coming from MCL, I think that's their key into this game.
Great said there, Chisa, because when it comes to the elements that FIT needs to work with, it has to be in their favor. Not to mention timing. They need to watch out for the timing, especially the fact that Stellar is on this Galio. Plus, the Zac is there. But now, I think for Dre, he's still a bit nervous when it comes to ganking full to the ball lane, because you can see the potential of the Rakan, and if the Galio ever does intervene, this could spell disaster for FIT.
Yeah, one thing he could do though is actually just go mid lane and attack the Galio. Stellar still does not have his flash, so it might be a bit more difficult for him to actually get away from a Zac gank. Let's wait and see though, because normally playing against globals, the thing you should do is just attack the global. That way, he can't use it to support his team.
And I think the focus is being drawn towards the top lane side as we're seeing Dre approaching again towards Arfing's lane. He's trying to just be there just in case Lucius goes for a hard-on engage. But same with the Gragas. Suzuya is also there in the top lane side. But I think, Chista, we have to watch out for the full-on team fights because they need to be aware of this Galio.
Yeah, alam mo, tinatawag lang yata talaga ni Lucius itong si Drace towards the top lane. The Jax is always pushing in the Irelia. Alam niya na sobrang inviting ng fact na yun because it's very easy for Zac to just hop over the wall, try and go for this gank, but Lucius is confident enough to push forward because he knows he's good enough to get away. So I like the aggression there, really absorbing the pressure from FIT's jungler really well.
And not just that for MCL, great restraint for the Rakan. They know that they don't have much control in vision, especially in the lower left side, that tri-brush there. So they're quite wary of the Zac. So you can, maybe in a way, drawing attention is more than enough for them to know or predict where the Zac can go. But as of now, I guess Rift Herald is the key.
Yeah, well, we're gonna see an engage.
Wow, 3 members already, and the teleport coming in, plus the Gallia ultimate coming in from the Stellar in the mid lane, flashing in with the taunt. Finally, the global ults in play here for MCL. 5 members instantly in the bot lane. This is actually a risk, I think, for MCL are willing to take, as the first turret is still up for grabs here. In the other side of the map, we did see the eye. The Rift Herald has fallen towards FIT's favor.
Yeah, gusto ko yung play na ginawa ng MCL dito. Kahit na 5 member yung in-invest nila, nagsastruggle yung bot lane nila. The Xayah was not having the best time against the Kai'Sa. She was down around 40 CS, so they needed to end the laning phase. They needed to get the Xayah out of lane so that she doesn't continue bleeding resources. But in the end, I don't think global gold-wise, it was worth it for their team because the Rift Herald and Tower did go down to the side of FIT, but at least they got the Xayah out of that bad situation.
I guess they will just trade off objectives here for the first Ocean Drake, falling to the hands of Warlocks, as we did see the Eye of the Herald being used in the mid lane to match that push in the bot lane. Oh, flash, counter-strike stun,
So aggressive.
Pops the heal, see it's not going in where the cooldown should be up here, and he just pops his flash and causing the hell of the Zac. Zac though in the middle does not let the Gallia go in with the punch to help out Lucius. In a way, 1-0 in the mid lane, great aggression, but still, it's about time that FIT are starting a fight in the mid lane.
Alley-oop right there. The Emperor's Divide straight into the elastic slingshot. A great chain CC there secures the kill onto Stellar. The response from FEU was just great. Man, they picked up 2 kills instantly. I think that was also a bit of over-aggression from the side of Lucius, trying to pick up the kill onto the Azir. Now though, what can they do? They've lost both mid and top outer tier turrets. The map is really wide open now for MCL. FIT can just constantly push towards MCL's jungle and possibly set up more vision for more picks with their comp.
Perhaps they can try and secure some control in the bot lane, because we're now seeing some swap in by MCL. Now the Jax will go towards the bot lane. The Gragas is just in the blue side, just in case FIT wants to try something sneaky. Looks like vision being denied in the brush side there. FIT sees this and they will just back off. Meanwhile, the Zac is in the red side, so you can expect some focus here in the bot lane.
Yeah, the Kai'Sa already completed her Ginsu's Rage Blade, whereas the Xayah has not even completed her first item yet, building towards the Essence Reaver. It's gonna take quite a long time until books can become relevant again as this Xayah. So now FIT, they know their Kai'Sa is ahead. They need to play around this champion. They need to set her up for even more success and set her up for more kills because they have the killer instinct. They know the Kai'Sa can easily follow up to their dive potential. They need to start working around that now and look for plays while MCL's lineup is still at a weak point.
For MCL, from the fact that they're at a kill death score deficit and a gold advantage, forcing a gold advantage towards FIT. When it comes to items, yes, the Kai'Sa will be the one they have to play around. That's why you can see that Zac is winning the wings. As the Zac went in with a counter-strike, does dodge the binding, causing the Zac, kidnaps him towards the Kai'Sa, and Dre will just pick him up, causing the Gallia, forces out the flash, does not want to get knocked up by the hero's entrance. That's a lot of focus there. And now Seed, can he make the plays here with the Azir's Emperor's Divide? It is available, but for MCL, they respect it. They will just back up, take the turret. You will not suffer any more casualties.
Yeah, Lucius was way too confident. They're trying to get FIT's bot lane from his tower. He tried to jump onto the Kai'Sa, but the Jax has not even completed Trinity Force yet. You won't deal enough damage to actually take down or lock down the Kai'Sa. So a bit too confident there, knowing that he had his jungler support, but it wasn't enough. The response was not in time. He just died instantly from the fed Kai'Sa.
And the Kai'Sa is doing a great job. I mean, kiting in and out, knows actually the spacing of the hero's entries because you don't want to get knocked up there. That could have been a setup for Stella to going for the kill because you do see the Galio running an electrocute and getting the Roa. So as Warlocks are ramping up some momentum on their side, looks like FIT are securing advantage as early as they can so that when it does come into play for Warlocks to bounce back, they are still somehow in control.
Yeah, the MCL Warlocks don't have that much answers to the Kaisa at the moment. Once this game does go a bit longer towards the later parts, once the Xayah could have possibly caught up with items, possibly 2 to 3 items, then they can start combating the members of FEUIT. But yeah, going back to what we were talking about, I did mention that I like the Galio pick very much. It hasn't worked out for MCL yet because I think Galio's strengths really come during the laning phase where it can really impact the side lanes. We haven't seen that great of a use of the Galio ult yet though, as there might be a pick. No, I think Suzuya can back off here.
Just back off and not commit to a fight in the blue side. It is risky for FIT to just throw away a lead and for MCL to just catch back right up, because when you leave the crumbs, you don't want the enemy to just pick it up and gather up the resources as the ultimate was placed there, but he did body slam away. Jax is there, Lucis going in with a leap strike. The stun, ooh, does not connect. Counter strike here coming in. Oh, forces out that flash. No CC lockdown there, but meanwhile, that is a close call for the Rakan as we did see Zeke just choking, just chunking down the health of this Rakan and preventing it from responding.
Yeah, FIT are beginning to run away with this game, Vulcan. They're constantly invading the jungle of MCL. Look at the wards placed in the jungle of MCL. There are almost 0 red wards that actually give value to MCL Warlocks here. They're running into the jungle blind, and that allows FIT to just constantly do chip damage to these towers. They are not afraid to step forward because they know from every angle kung saan manggagaling yung engage ng MCL Warlocks.
And I think with the amount of push they done in the bot lane, the Infernal Drake will be live in 14 seconds. I guess for Drake, he's setting things up here as he's taking away the scuttle.
Yeah, that might be a free Infernal Drake take unless by some miracle.
Big for Xayah, rather the Kaisa.
It's also big for the Xayah. I mean, if by some miracle MCL are able to actually challenge this dragon, even though it's highly unlikely, it might be a way for them to get back into the game. But looking at how the setup has been and looking at how far ahead FIT actually is, it's really difficult, but I think the jungler's gonna die soon.
Oh my god, they're calling in the Galio. Stellar goes in with the 2-mana. Got the taunt, will not connect to the Kaisa because had the black shield, and now we're seeing a free being dealt here. But the Xayah with the Feather, oh, they're in a line. This is big trouble for FIT as MCL Warlocks are putting a fight in the blue side, and I just removed the key threats, but Seed tried his best to just chunk them down.
Yeah, I wonder, will this fight end with MCL crushing them because they are gonna get a catch onto the Kaisa? Is fairly low, no mana. I wonder though. There's a very weird pause. We apologize.
I think when it comes to this fight, it was the fact that for the Warlocks, they knew their condition, especially the Xayah going in for the Featherstorm. That was a great engage, but looks like Seed made a play making Emperor's Divine, pushing back the Xayah, getting that double kill with the Galio also being removed. A fact that the fight was in Warlock's favor to try and fight back, but Z just shut it down with the Emperor's Divide.
Yeah, I want to see a replay of that fight actually so that we get a smoother version of how it panned out. But that was MCL's window back into the game. They already got the catch onto the Kaisa, but FIT were able to kite back, able to reset the fight with Emperor's Divide, and I think they are going to secure that Infernal Drake that we were talking about earlier.
They are setting things up here as Lucis trying to trade things up with the Aurelia. But in the end, all across the map, FIT looking strong in the opening week as they have secured the Infernal Drake.
Yeah, this early game is just going way in the favor of FEU Institute of Technology because look at the gold lead for their team. It's already massive, only 20 minutes into the game. MCL are running out of answers to this.
And now for MCL, the test begins now to see how they can try and bounce back into our match, because for MCL Warlocks, with a gold deficit and a lead for FIT here, I mean, that's huge. 8,000, nearing 8,000 gold lead for the iTimer House, and it does It is considerable. And now we're seeing the Baron being live here as movements all across the map. They're hinting towards the Baron, but note that the Baron does take a bit more time to take down due to the bonus HP. But I think for FIT, with the amount of lead they have, maybe they can set things up here.
Yeah, and not just the lead that they have, Vulcan. The fact that they have Kai'Sa on their team. Kai'Sa probably one, if not the best AD carry to do Baron with now with her passive. You're instantly able to shred that, but hold on.
Look at that sack. Dre with the kidnap, just setting things up again. The pickup is what they need, and said try and go for the playmaking divide. But in the end, they do have the mobility. You gotta respect that. They do disengage from the fight, but they've lost Stellar. They've lost the support. The mid support are gone, and I think for FIT, this isn't something they're scared of. They would just go straight for the Baron.
Yeah, even though the Emperor's Divide did not connect, FIT still got what they needed with the primary engage gone for MCL. With the follow-up engage gone, the Baron looks like it will be free going over to FIT now. They have secured a massive advantage. The gold lead just went past 10k. They might have just gone past the point of looking back, and they're just gonna crush this game now.
But
Honestly,
it's still not yet over because we do see teams. Miracles do happen. But for the Warlocks, can they scale up towards the late game? Because when you talked about the one instance that we did see a hope for the Warlocks was the blue side. They were all lining up, getting tunneled in by the Size Feather. Close call for the Kai'Sa to be taken down, but Zeth is something that you need to control.
No, but here's the thing, Vulcan. You talk about MCL hitting late game. FIT's lineup still outscales them in terms of damage, in terms of everything. MCL's win condition was smashing early game, get the Jax to become a split push threat, use the Galio to impact side lanes. We are way past that point that even if this progresses longer, FIT is just gonna out-damage them at every turn for the rest of this game.
We'll see once it happens as FIT with the advantage from the game itself, the early phases, just showing right now with the Baron play happening in the bot lane.
Yeah, they're gonna push forward here. Now, one way that MCL can stop this Baron push is to try and find an engage. It is very difficult, but doable. FIT, though, just trying to split up the members of MCL here, which I think is very, very smart because MCL's lineup is stronger when they are grouped as 5. Whereas FIT do have the luxury to try and go for a more split push based game, but
over
hold
the
on.
wall. Here comes the two-man Kenda with the Rakan going over the wall. Changes his mind a bit too late as Rindo just takes him down here. And from the backline, we did see the Aurelia just going in for the dive here, but the Zac Dre doing so much work to just zone out the members, and for the Azir just shutting down the engage, just pushing back the members of Warlocks, as we did see the trade going in immediate favor as the ace has been played.
Yeah, it looks like FIT are still riding on the momentum of their first win. They get a 5-0 ace straight in the base of MCL Warlocks, and they are going to be knocking down inhibitors here. They might possibly go for 3 here, but I don't think the end of the game will be soon as the members of MCL are beginning to respawn. But, oh, that feels bad, man. You just respawn and you instantly die to the Aurelia. That feels bad
with
now.
With the Baron buff and Baron minions flooding into the base of the Warlocks, they are going for back, while the Warlocks will try and defend the incoming waves. But for FIT, the other objectives that can possibly go for is the Infernal being live in 1 minute and 29 seconds. Kill score is 15-4. Itamera is really starting the opening week strong.
Yeah, I don't think they need to even wait for the Infernal Drake Vulcan. They can just straight up set up all these lanes to push in their favor. I mean, it's 3 inhibitors down. It's very easy to set up for the final push of the game here. All they need to do is group up, push the minions in, and let the minions do the work.
Let's see as we will hold on to the replay to see what happened in the base clash.
Yeah, this is just the Zac being super confident to go for any sort of engage he can because he's way too tanky. Nobody on MCL can take this Zac down unless they hit him practically forever. Even though the Kai'Sa does go down in the end, the damage was already done. They were already able to win the fight just from the initial engage. Just really great stuff. Really well played execution here by FIT.
And now on to the final push, perhaps for FIT, as the Warlocks will try their best to just defend the incoming waves. With all 3 inhibitors down, looks like the time is up for the Warlocks as FIT item rounds going in for a clutch here. Redemption has been used to just heal off. Why not? As the base is just being destroyed by those minions. The turret is next. This will be the first Nexus turret being taken down by item aroused. Maybe they're gonna go full.
Whoa!
What a play by Z with a 2-man Emperor's Divide push towards the team. They just quickly clean that up, as I think for this game will go to item aroused, ending the opening week with a great start, 2-0.
Yeah, FIT's finishing their second game in style right there, ending the week 2-0. This game this game very, very one-sided in favor of FIT. I mean, just from the early game, they just never looked back. With the lead that they got onto their Kai'Sa, they just used the fact that they had a snowballing AD carry and just absolutely crushed that game.
And it's actually evident of what we said before, as FIT, iTimerhouse, one of the teams that improved throughout the whole first term of the LVL, but not to mention entering the second term better than ever, a great dynamic, as Zeke said, due to the roster changes, and now it's showing right here as they have secured a 2-0 against their matches, their games, and for a great start in the opening week.
Yeah, and speaking of starts, as for MCL, they still have 2 more games to try and bounce back in week 1, so hopefully they're able to reset, go back to the drawing board. Maybe we need a new strategy coming in, and maybe they can win their next few matches.
And I just love how one of the highlights I saw there was Zeetz Azir going for those aggressive deep dives, Emperor's Divide, to just go for the cleanups. That's something that FIT mid laner has done to try and secure their second game.
And for me, I think the largest thing was really just the Kai'Sa being left open. The Kai'Sa was left unanswered. If you're gonna leave this champion open, you better have a counter ready, and unfortunately MCL did not have a counter ready.
So we'll see that once we glow up to the next game. But as for now, I think what's coming up next would be, again, MCL Warlocks will be facing against another game. Let's hope they do have a success in their next game, as we will be going on to a short break here. My name is Vulcan, with me was Chisto, your shoutcasters for the Game 4. See you there after the short break.
It's really difficult, but I think the jungler's gonna die soon.
Oh my god, they're calling in the Galio. Stellar goes in with the 2-man knock. The taunt will not connect to the Kai'Sa because had the black shield, and now we're seeing a free hit being dealt here. But Azaya with the Feather, oh, they're in a line. This is big trouble for FIT as MCL Warlocks are putting a fight in the blue side, and I just removed the key threats, but Zeke tried his best to just chunk them down. Oh,
yeah, I wonder.
That's a Dre with the kidnap, just setting things up again. The pickup is what they need, and says they're trying for the dive here, but the Zac Dre doing so much work to just zone out the members, and for the Azir, just shutting down the engage, just pushing back the members of Warlocks, as we did see the trade going in immediate favor as the ace has been played.
Yeah, it looks like FIT are still riding on the momentum of their first win. They get a 5-0 ace straight in the base of MCL Warlocks, and they are going to...
Warlocks will try their best to just defend the coming waves with all 3 inhibitors down. Looks like the time is up for the Warlocks as FIT item around going in for a clash here. Redemption has been used to just heal off. Why not? As the base is just being destroyed by those minions. The turret is next. This will be the first Nexus turret being taken down by item aroused. Maybe they're gonna go full.
Whoa.
What a play by Z with a 2-man Emperor's Divide push towards the team. They just quickly clean that up, as I think for this game will go to item aroused, ending the opening week with a great start, 2-0.
Yeah, FIT's finishing their second game in style right there, ending the week 2-0. This game very